UFC Fight Night, Kansas City in the books. Very exciting card. Lot of exciting finishes. Garry maintains his position at number 7. Edges out a decision win, as I had called, against Prates. Prates looked very, very flat. Anthony Smith gets retired in Anthony Smith fashion. Absolutely insanity that they sent him off with a retirement video and the whole shenanigan. It was crazy. We've had actual MMA UFC legends that have retired in recent that have not had proper send-offs. The Like the one that Anthony Smith had. I'm hoping that they did that because they did not want him to come back, and they were saying, "Hey, we're doing this huge production for you. This You can't do one of these. Hey, I'm retiring, and now that I've lost, I want to come back for one last hoorah." So I'm praying to God that we don't have to see him anymore. But that happened. But nonetheless, awesome card, top to bottom, stacked with finishes. Couple weird moments that we'll talk about, but overall, Kansas City was a great card. Starting it off, Jocelyn Edwards versus Chelsea Chandler. Jocelyn Edwards has some power at bantamweight. Not a lot of women have power to end the fight. I think that's why women's MMA kind of has as bad of a rap as it does. They're not the most exciting fights historically, if unless you're talking to Young Jacek, uh, getting beaten to look like ET against Wei Lee. Like we don't historically get the most exciting fights, but then every once in a while, someone like a Jocelyn Edwards comes in and starches Chelsea Chandler. Uh, I'll be tuning in. I was glad that I didn't take an extra 30 minutes and fuck off when this card started, because she certainly got to work quick and put Chelsea out in the first round. Um, so started the fight card off with a bang, and then the next fight moving on is Timmy Kawamba and Roberto Romero. So Timmy was fighting to stay within the USC. He was 0-3, I believe. I believe he was 0-3. Oh, and so he was 1-2 in his last 3 fights. Um, so with a 3-fight contract, which most new UFC newcomers are going to get the 3-fight contract. Like this fight tonight was his make or break. If he lost tonight, he was 100% without a doubt going to get cut, and he looked good. He looked good. It was a tightly contested like couple rounds while it lasted. I thought it was technically a very like skilled fight between these two. I had Kawamba up on round 1, just due to a little bit more damage that he seemed to be inflicting. Um, and Romero did have some good wrestling. He finished a single leg in the first round, but he didn't really do anything with it. Round 2, Kawambo stunned Romero with a straight right and then a nasty head kick right after it, followed up very shortly after with a big knee. Romero, he got up right away. It was contested very quickly, but it wasn't a great visual, and I would have liked to have seen it go a little bit longer. Um, but I mean, I don't think that if that fight would have gone a little longer, it would have necessarily changed the outcome of it. He had Romero badly hurt, split him open. I mean, the 2 landed flush. The head kick landed pretty flush. I think Romero might have got a little bit of a partial block on the head kick, but then that knee was, I mean, nasty. So Timmy showed that he does indeed belong in the UFC. Not putting the horse before the carriage. It's only his second win in the UFC, but definitely moving in the right direction after that fight. Um, gained some style points after that one. So I'll be watching Timmy Kuwamba in his next fight very closely. Moving on, this was an absolute beatdown. Um, Polyana Viana looked amateur. Jacqueline has some crisp jujitsu. Crisp. She was dominating on the ground. She shot immediately as soon as round one started, shoots in, dominated and controlled north south. Played half guard a little bit in that first round. Didn't necessarily do a ton of damage, but she did end the round on Polyana's back. Uh, Very dominating first round. I scored that a 10-8. And then same story, round two. Jacqueline comes out, shoots a takedown, not met with much resistance at all, if any. And then same story. Controls her really well, um, and then makes her way to the back. Gets a really easy rear naked choke. That's Jacqueline's third straight sub and fourth straight win in the UFC. So she's surging in the strawweight division on a 4-fight win streak. Man, I mean, her jujitsu looked crisp, crisp. Nowhere for Pollyanna to work. Um, Man, it. Let's see what the so Pollyanna was ranked number 8, I believe. What was she ranked? She wasn't ranked. Was she not ranked at all? Hmm. Give her Angela Hill. Why not? I mean, she's on a 4-fight win streak. She should be fighting someone in the top 15. It's not like the women's strawweight division is super stacked in the top 15. I mean, for Christ's sake, Angela Hill, she's the same. She's the women's version of Anthony Smith. She should have fucking retired years ago. I don't know why she's still in the UFC. She somehow keeps squeaking out wins every now and then to stay relevant. Just feed Angela Hill to Jacqueline Amarim in her next fight, get her ranked, get Angela Hill out of there. It's a win-win for everyone. But either way is very impressive. She made Pollyanna look like she didn't even belong in there with her. Moving on. Moving on. Malcolm Wellmaker. Man, this is, I said it in my fight predictions. Malcolm is very explosive. He's athletic. He is physically, you can see just here, and especially once they got in the cage, you could see that he had a lot more muscle than Cameron Simon. It was evident, and this one is how I saw this going, and I think it's how a good amount of people saw this coming. Cameron Simon is coming off of a nasty TKO from Peyton Talbot. This is now his second TKO loss in a row. He's got to go back to the drawing board. Malcolm Wellmaker should be getting a $50,000 bonus. His UFC debut comes in and makes a fucking statement. I think this kid's got a bright future. Definitely. Definitely. And this was a southpaw versus southpaw, and I believe he caught him coming in with a right, but had switched to orthodox right before he caught him or was backing up. But I mean, he folded Cameron Simon, folded him. Very impressive win. Very, and the bantamweight division is, in my opinion, the most fun division right now, and he's a great addition to the bantamweights. I mean, the bantamweight division is damn near as stacked as the lightweight division. I would say it might even be more stacked than the lightweight division. You know, Malcolm gets couple fights under his belt, maybe 2, 3 more fights under his belt, couple good finishes. He's fighting in the top 15. There's rumors that Marcus McGee is fighting Peter Yan. That would be a wild jump up, but that was kind of how it happened with Sean O'Malley. I think Sean O'Malley was like 14 or 13 as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, Malcolm Wellmaker is a great addition to the bantamweight division. Super excited to see how he performs in his next one. I'll be watching for sure. Damon Blackshear and Allenton Genhali. This was just a pretty competitive ish fight. Round one was close, in my opinion, but went to Blackshear. Blackshear started off this fight with a lot of teep kicks up the middle. He was using that really well to manage his distance, and he kind of strayed away from that as the fight went on. He didn't really use the low leg kicks or the teeps until the third round again. So less kicks in round two, and Allenton Gailey started to find his range a little bit better in round two, but I still think that Blackshear was up 2-0 after the second. After the second, Blackshear was piecing him up. He had started to find his range a little bit midway round two, but after round two, it was very apparent how this fight was going if it stayed on the feet. And that's something that I'll never understand. And I've obviously never been in there myself. But, when you're watching MMA, where it's mixed martial arts and you should be well rounded enough to, if the fight's not going your way on the feet, you should be able and capable of at least presenting a wrestling game. I will never understand when the fighter is getting battered on the feet, why they don't attempt to change levels. You're already getting shit on the feet. Why not change levels and try to mix things up? And he didn't. I mean, round three came along and Damon just kind of cruised. He was touching him, moving really well laterally. Allenton Gailey couldn't put anything on him in the third. He had that little spurt in the second, but after that, not much to report. So Damon Blackshear, I think Damon Blackshear is on a 4-fight win streak himself, 3-fight win streak. So, he's probably going to get a pretty hard fight his next fight. I would say maybe an Amin Zahabi. I don't know if he's got a fight booked here soon, but Amin Zahabi. He didn't really take much damage in this fight. What are we doing here? He didn't really take much damage in this fight, so he could have a quick turnaround. I know Malcolm was saying he wants to be on that UFC Atlanta card, and that's totally doable if they have room. Because I mean, he didn't take a fucking lick in this fight, so we could potentially see Malcolm Wellmaker and Damon Blackshear make some kind of quick turnarounds, but fair fight. I mean, I guarantee you that this 29-28 was Cleary. Fucking-tee it. Dude's a clown. Moving on. One thing that's you always know that you're gonna get with Chris Gutierrez is you're gonna get leg kicks. And his leg kicks are nasty. They are. He had a slip up in round one on a body kick, I believe. His corner was telling him to go Wonder Boy, and he threw a leg kick to the body and slipped up, and got controlled for a little bit on his back. And we've seen Chris Gutierrez have trouble getting held down on his back. Once he's on his back, he's not very good there. Uh, at least he doesn't present any dangers of a submission game from his back, and doesn't really create space very well to present opportunities for himself to get up. So he slips up. He does get up and then immediately rocks Castaneda, uh, and then ends up on top when the round finishes. So I had round one to Gutierrez. Castaneda, he didn't get dominated round one. I thought that Castaneda, up until he got rocked, was doing really well. But the second round, Gutierrez came out and landed like 2 or 3 super heavy low leg kicks, and one actually dropped Castaneda. And Gutierrez is one of the only guys in the UFC that has a stoppage due to leg kicks. So I know it's kind of annoying. Everyone's, oh, his leg kicks, oh, his leg kicks. But yeah, he's got one of the only stoppages in the UFC for leg kicks. So I imagine they fucking hurt. Third round, I thought Castaneda won. I didn't really thought. The thing is he had ground control. He had almost 5 minutes of control, but he wasn't doing shit with it. He was staying in top side control or top side or top half guard, but he wasn't doing anything. He was just controlling Gutierrez, and it's not like Gutierrez was really making intelligent attempts at escaping from the bottom. So, Castaneda, I think, really let this slip away. He had almost 5 minutes of control time that he didn't do a lot with. And I think it would have been a much different story if Castaneda would have actually presented some ground and pound when he had those opportunities. But he just, we're seeing it now, and it's good because you should not get rewarded for taking your opponent down and then not dealing any damage. That should not hold merit. And it's good that we're starting to see now that refs are judging these fights based off of damage rather than control in some instances. And this is one of those fights where that happened. So Chris Gutierrez gets the dub. This was a great fight. Gage Young coming in on like a 2-week short notice. His first fight in the UFC. Evan Elder is a fucking monster. I don't know how that guy makes 155. Honestly, he's got to walk around at 195, 200. He's a brick house. It will always baffle me that he makes lightweight, but he came out heavy with the leg kicks. Every single kick and punch that Evan Elder threw was to take Gage's head off or to really do some damage to the sticks. And that's crazy because this fight went 3 rounds and Evan Elder has the gas tank to throw absolute bombs for 15 minutes. I don't think I was the only one in the first round watching him swinging for the fences, thinking that he was going to gas out by the mid-round 2. But he apparently has a gas tank like no other and just defies what we know about gas tanks. Because you should not have that much muscle and be that big at 155 and be able to keep that pace, throwing with that much power for the entire 15 minutes. I thought that round 1 went to Elder. He mixed it up really well, especially with the leg kicks early on. And one thing that I was glad to see with this fight, and we've seen it a lot lately, eye pokes not getting addressed and not being warned and points not being taken. Honestly, I thought I heard the ref warn both of these guys 2 or 3 or 4 separate times verbally in the first round and early in the second round before the eye poke happened. So Not saying that a point should have been taken immediately, but it's like, I mean, the ref was verbalizing it multiple times, and the eye poke still happened. So I was glad that it wasn't really a bad eye poke. They were able to get back to the action pretty quick, but uh, Young started getting picked apart in round two. Evan Elder was throwing multiple strike combos, landing heavy kicks. Even if Gage was blocking them, I mean those had to have been tiring his arms out. He really started to pick Gage apart. Gage was really only throwing one punch at a time. Even if he had the opportunity to throw a combo, he was just very hesitant. It seemed like he was scared of getting countered. He got touched up a couple times. Both guys got a couple good licks in here and there, but there wasn't really anything very substantial. Um, Round two, I think, went to Elder as well. It wasn't at it was probably even more dominant than round one. Round three, round three was probably the least dominant of all. It was still a 30-27 all day in my book, but round one and round two were definitely Evan Elder's best rounds. Gage Young did a little bit better managing the distance and not getting chopped up as much in the third, but not he did not have many answers. And props to him for coming in again on 2 weeks' notice, UFC debut against an absolute monster like Evan Elder. I'm sure Evan Elder is going to get a ranked opponent next, I would say. If not next if not next fight, it's going to be the fight after. Uh mm, I don't know if Grant Dawson has a fight booked or not. That'd be a fun fight. Both those guys are built like brick shitters. Joel Alvarez, that could be a fun fight. But yeah, I mean, Evan Elder, he's most likely gonna either fight for a ranked spot next fight that he has, or two from tonight. So good for him. I'm sure we'll see Gage again at some point. I'm not sure if he's got a 3-fight contract that he signed for this, or if this was just a one off. I'm not really sure, but I'm sure we'll see him again. It just wasn't really his time tonight. Moving on, Matt Schnell and Jimmy Flick. This is a fucking barn burner. Uh, so Matt Schnell kind of did a faux retirement after his last fight. He threw his gloves in the middle of the octagon, and then by the time he got back to the presser, he was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm I shouldn't make rash decisions." So glad that he didn't, because we got treated to a great fight. Um, Round one, Flick takes it. He got I think he had two single legs in the first round. I mean, beautiful takedowns, body lock, inside trip or inside reap, whatever you want to call it. Um, very controlling once he got on the ground. I'm pretty sure that he held Schnell down the rest of round one. Um, but again, he kind of was in the same boat that Castaneda was in, where he held Matt Schnell down for I think almost 3 minutes in the first round and dealt little to no damage. So it's frustrating to watch them basically just lay on top of each other, and not do damage. I mean, he would have won the round regardless, but there's just a lot of spots where he was not being active at all, and just kind of riding it out. Round two was the start of the guillotine epidemic. These guys probably shot or attempted 4 guillotines apiece on each other. I'm not really sure if Jimmy Flick was breathing out of his butt at the end of the second. I think it was at the end of the second. No, it was end of the second. He had Jimmy Flick in a tight guillotine, closed guard, and he had really just cut Flick open. And right after he cut him is when he jumped on a guillotine. And this was the second time tonight that Big Dan Mergliata heard the 10-second clap and went to break the fighters up. And I don't know if Matt Schnell would have finished the guillotine if Big Dan wouldn't have done that, but there is a chance that 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 would have ended differently if Dan Mergliata would not have kind of touched the fighters with the 10 seconds. But Matt Schnell gets really close to finishing the guillotine at the end of round 2, and then round 3 was just an absolute grinder of a round. Matt Schnell ends up on Flick's back as the fight finishes and got really close to finishing a rear naked choke. He got the hand behind Flick's neck, or behind Flick's head, and Flick did a really good job of isolating and fighting that top hand. And was able to escape. But I mean, it was an absolute barn burner, back and forth, lots of scrambles. Like I said, each guy probably attempted 3 or 4 guillotines apiece, with Schnell having the most notable and being the tightest. Very fun fight. Glad that Matt Schnell didn't hang him up. And I was dogging Matt Schnell before this fight. I mean, I was saying his chin was gone, which, not saying that Jimmy Flick really tested his chin. Jimmy Flick looks like your cousin from Kentucky that can cook up a mean batch of meth, but he's also got some really good grappling. And it sucks because he put on a great fight, and other than a few things happening, it could have gone his way. It was a close fight. He's probably, I don't know if he's going to be fighting in the UFC any longer. 34, 1-4 in his last 5. He's no Tony Ferguson. He's not got a big name to keep propping him up and getting him fights. So this might be the last time we saw old meth Jimmy Flick. But you can't deny he's a skilled grappler. And if that was his last fight, it was a damn good one. It was a damn good one. I had Schnell winning 29-28, just like all the judges had. But overall, that was a great fight. Moving on. I'll be honest, I was wrong about this one. I thought Andre Muniz was going to put up a much, much tougher fight for Ikram. Honestly, he looked like he was asleep at the wheel. Not very active. He was getting backed up against the fence very quickly. Ikram controlled the distance from the get-go and made it a quick night at the office. Very quick night at the office. Ikram calls out a rematch for Robert Whittaker. I don't know if that's necessarily a fight that makes sense. Robert Whittaker is the #1 contender. I'm almost positive. Sorry, 5. My dumbass. Give me a break. It's 1 a.m. in the morning. It's been a long night. I've been cheeching. So, does that make sense? Probably not. Ikram's going to be in the rankings maybe, like in like 14, 15. I don't really know if that fight makes sense for him next. I think a fight that makes more sense for Ikram is like a Marvin Vettori or a Jared Cannonier. I don't really think people want to see that again. Because if it goes the other way, what are we gonna do? A fucking Robert Whitaker Ikram trilogy? Like I just don't think that's worth it. So Ikram may get a Jared Cannonier, maybe, but impressive comeback for Ikram. Randy Brown, that's a bad man right there, everybody. That is a bad man. He absolutely shattered Dalby's nose in that first round. I mean, his nose was fucking sideways. He broke it so bad that it didn't bleed. I mean, that nose didn't start leaking until the second round when it started getting touched up again. And props to Dalby. He's a mean, bad motherfucker. He did not flinch when that nose got broke. Just kept on as usual. Nose is fucking falling off the side of his face, and he's not even phased. So tough as nails. He had a tough first round, especially after getting his nose broke. But he does drop Randy Brown right after he gets his nose broke. That was really the only big moment of the fight for him. He dropped him with an overhand right and then ended up finishing round one on top. And then going into the corner, Nicholas Dalby's cornerman resets his nose. Crazy. And then I think Dalby knew that this fight was not going his way after round one. Even though he had rocked him, he had just got his nose shattered and then reset in his corner. And he started getting desperate round two. I think he tried to make it a little bit dirtier of a fight. Trying to get inside the reach advantage that Randy Brown had on him is something that's very difficult to do. But in round two, he came out and threw caution to the wind. No game plan to try and manage that distance, and just rushed in and got slept. That was a top 5 knockout of the year, no doubt about it. And Dalby's going to be, I mean, concussion protocol for show. For show. He probably woke up and asked what was for fucking dinner. He had probably no clue where he was. I mean, you get slept that bad. Concussion protocol, 1000%. And Randy Brown, bad motherfucker. That just goes to show you how good Jack Della Maddalena is. Because JDM made him, put Randy Brown out. Finished him. Just goes to show you how good JDM is. There's levels. But Randy Brown, fuck, man. He is so big and so long for this division. Like, man. And up until that last fight with Brian Battle, his only loss was against Jack Dallamena and Vicente Luque within the last 5 years. I mean, serious contender here. Serious contender. Had a hard-fought loss against Brian Battle. I mean, what do you do with him? Got to give him someone ranked. 100%. Has to. I like a Michael Venom Page fight, to be honest with you. I do. Or Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates just kind of got exposed, in my opinion, tonight. We'll get to that in a second. But after tonight, him losing, Randy Brown versus Carlos Prates, that makes a lot of sense to me. Why not? Fun fight to make. I say either Carlos Prates or MVP next for Randy Brown. Why not? After a knockout like that, Nicholas Dalby has never, ever been finished. Ever. 30 fights. First one, Randy Brown. Cold. Slept him. Night-night. Moving on to this absolute fucking snooze fest. I'm fighting for my life on the East Coast for some of these fight cards, and then we got these two cornballs. Michel Pereira wastes more energy on his walkouts doing his corny ass dances and then gasses out within one round. This was the fight that took all the air out of the main card. We had a great knockout right before with Randy Brown. And then we get these two jokers just putting on a snooze fest. Magomedov wobbled Pereira in the first. And that was about it. Round one was to Magomedov. The only thing that happened was a one tag. That was about it. Round two, snooze fest. Round three, they were both so gassed from the snooze fest, which I don't understand how the fuck that even happens. These guys threw 100, less than 150 strikes at a crazy slow pace. And they were so gassed. Michel Pereira looked like he didn't even want to be in there. I hope they cut him. If he doesn't get you out of there in the first minute and a half of the fight, his gas tank is so shitty. It's a crapshoot. And Abbas showed his gas tank sucks ass too. If he wasn't able to hold his stamina against Michel Pereira, who was not being a threat at all, Michel Pereira was on his back foot going backwards the entire time. Magomedov was going forward the entire time and got tired. There were no crazy scrambles, no exhausting wrestling exchanges, nothing. And both these guys gassed out. Fucking snooze fest. Brutal. I hope to not see Michel Pereira in the UFC again. And I certainly hope that Magomedov's coaches tell him that was the most boring shit they've ever watched. And they scald him when they get back to their gym. He said, "I'm going to be the first German champion." And I don't think with that performance that that's going to happen there, Magomedov. Moving on, though. Chikadze and Onama was a fantastic fight. Giga rocked Onama in the first, and then Onama took him down and had some pretty good control time. But both guys landed some good shots in round one. I thought personally that round one went to Giga. They obviously did not. I did not think that this was a unanimous decision. I thought it was a very similar situation to the Castaneda fight. Onama had a lot of ground control time, but he didn't do a lot with it. He didn't. If you have 6 minutes of control time, your face should look like the guy's face should look like Michael Chandler after Paddy Pimblett was on top of him. That's just my opinion. If you have 6 minutes of control time, you should be raining down ground and pound. And all Onama was doing was controlling. So I thought round one went to Giga. Round two was very dominant, I thought, for Onama. Very clear round two win for Onama. He was one step ahead in the grappling exchanges. I thought Giga did a lot better in round 1, handling his own on the ground. Round 2, Onama just looked far superior in the grappling exchanges. Round 3, there was a bad clash of heads. I don't know how either of them didn't get cut. It looked like Onama may have gotten the worst of it, but at the same time, Giga ended up on his back. Both were landing some flush shots before the head clash, so I I really do think that that head clash, and this was before I saw that the judges had scored this unanimous decision, because I thought this was 1-1 going into the third round. So I thought that when the head clash happened and Giga ended up on his back and then spent basically the whole rest of the round there, I thought that that's what lost him the fight. Then I see this come out that it was a unanimous decision. I'm like, what are these fucking judges watching? I'm pretty sure everyone thought it was 1-1 going into the third round. I mean, piss poor judging, but it was a barn burner of a fight. It was very, very, very technical, very competitive. Personally, I wanted to see David Onama get knocked out after his cringy celebration in his last win, but can't deny he's got some skill and he's got a lot of promise in the featherweight division. Um, Very good win for him. I'm sure he'll get someone in the top 5. So yeah, he'll take number 12. We could probably see an Onama and Aljamain fight coming up in the near future. Could be cool. Moving on, Anthony Smith and Zhang Mingyang. This went about how I thought it was going to go. Pretty much. Uh, you know, Anthony Smith put on a classic Lionheart performance. Looked like he had absolutely no business being in there. I said this before the fight happened. I don't know why Anthony Smith is still fighting. No disrespect, but he should have been retired a couple of years ago. Him and Angela Hill, in my opinion, are very similar in the fact that they should have retired, but they haven't, and they keep squeaking out wins. Uh, and you're just like, how are you still squeaking out wins somehow, some way? So this fight went exactly how I thought it would go. I thought that Zhang was going to beat the tar out of Anthony Smith. Granted, I didn't think that it was going to happen as fast as it did, but my cat's being a fucker. It's 1 a.m. It's prime goonin time for a cat. But this fight went exactly how I thought it was. I didn't think that it was going to happen as fast as it did, but Zhang cut him open really bad. He ate a lot of elbows before the fight even went down to the ground, and he got cut open bad on the top of his head. And head cuts, they bleed a lot, so a lot of times the visual is a lot worse than it actually is. But it wasn't a bad spot, and it was leaking down into his eye. Um, and once the fight got down to the ground, it was a rough visual. Anthony Smith was holding on to ankles for dear life, trying to come up on a shot on a single leg. He couldn't finish it. He was so rocked, so tired, so old, so terrible. He ate a couple shots to the back of the head. Not saying that had anything to do with the outcome of the fight, but he did eat a couple gnarly elbows to the back of the head at the end of that fight. Here's the deal. That retirement send-off that they gave Anthony Smith was an absolute disgrace. There have been actual legends that have retired in the last year alone that did not get a proper send off like Anthony Smith did. Anthony Smith is in no way of the word a legend. No, none at all. He is a mediocre gatekeeper that stayed in the fight game for way too long. Guys, look at this fucking record. Fucking 38-22. That is not a legendary record. A legendary record would be like 50 something and single digit record or single digit losses. That is not a legendary record. That is the record of a bum. Someone that fought way too long. He was good at one point, certainly. He fought for the title and, you know, had his moments. But the last few years have just been, he needed to retire. And I hope that this retirement video that the UFC gave him was their way of saying, please, for the love of fuck, don't come back. Actually retire. Don't use this beating that you just took as an excuse to say, I want to get one more W before I really call it quits. I hope and pray that that's why the UFC did this. But if they're going to give Anthony fucking Smith this good of a send-off, they better give actual legends of the sport a send-off. Like, I could see Edson Barbosa retiring soon and them just being like, all right, y'all, that was Edson Barbosa. Not saying that Edson Barbosa is like a legend, but he's, in my opinion, more of a legend than Anthony Smith. Disgraceful. I could not believe my fucking eyes that they made such a spectacle of his retirement. It was crazy. But this guy is going to be a problem. Nothing to take away from Zhang. He is a problem at light heavyweight. And we need it, man. Light heavyweight is kind of a fucking boring division right now. I mean, other than Dominic Reyes making his 2.0 title run again, let's go. We love that. You know, Carlos Ulberg hasn't fought in a while. He's exciting as fuck to watch. I hope we see him again soon. But, you know, Alex Pereira has beat Yuri, beat Jamal, beat Khalil. I mean, light heavyweight is not as in shambles as the top 10 in lightweight. But, I mean, there's some fights that could be made to clear things up in light heavyweight, but I think that Zhang is gonna fight for Johnny Walker next, or Volkan Oezdemir. That's my call. Johnny Walker has been slowly slipping through the ranks. He is 100% on a decline. I think we're gonna see him lose once, maybe twice more, and then that'll probably be done. And he is the biggest waste of talent that probably has graced the light heavyweight division in a long time. He had a lot of potential when he first got to the UFC, and it's crazy to see his downfall in real time. But anyways, I think Zhang is gonna fight probably right outside the top 10, maybe just in the top 10, with a Volkan Oezdemir as his next opponent. But nonetheless, very impressive, if you want to call it that, beating Anthony Smith. Impressive. I don't really know if that's the right word, but he looked good. He looked good. Main event. What more can you say? I called it. Ian Garry by decision. Listen, Ian Garry isn't the most exciting fighter. I think everyone knows that. He's not going to go in and give you a highlight reel knockout for the most part. But you cannot deny that his fight IQ is very high. Very, very high. Prates had really, really heavy pressure in the first round. And Prates was in his face. Garry did a really good job of moving laterally, not getting cut off by Prates, avoiding that big left hand. And nothing really substantial in the first round. Ian Garry landed a couple of good leg kicks, so I gave round one to Garry. Round two, he landed a step in elbow that was nice, but nothing really substantial all around two up until the last like 30 seconds of the round. Garry landed a couple good shots to end the round and took round two pretty decisively, in my opinion. Round three, this was like the third time by round three that Ian Garry had gotten in pretty deep on a single leg, but the way he was finishing it was just so weird. It was like the he was I believe it was a head on the outside single, and when he was dumping Prates, I don't know what was so weird about the finish, but it definitely looked off. But this third time in the third round that he went in for a single on Prates reversed it and ended up in kind of like a mount. Uh, and wasn't able to finish it. But at the end of the round, Ian Garry ends a big uppercut and stunned Prates. I think the third round was really the first time that Prates was kind of stunned a little bit in this fight. And then Ian Garry landed a late takedown to really seal round three. I thought that at the end of round three, I was watching Prates on his stool and he was huffing and puffing. And I'm thinking to myself, those ciggies aren't really coming in handy now that you're you're going into championship rounds and your opponent doesn't smoke 26 a day like you do allegedly. So I thought that his cardio was going to come into play a little bit more than it did in round four and round five. I think it still definitely did play a factor, but I thought after round three that he was going to be in a lot of trouble, and I was wrong. Um, Prates definitely caught Garry a few more times in round four. Really, the first times in the fight was in round four when he got caught. So the momentum, you could definitely feel it changing in round four. Not saying that it was anything very substantial, but Prates started to walk him down again. He was landing some very heavy shots. He landed a couple clean twos. And so round four, in my opinion, was a Carlos Prates. So going into round five, Carlos Prates is down 3-1 on the cards. So he needed a finish. He came out, and again, he put the pressure on Ian Garry in round five. I was very impressed that he had the cardio again. It may just be a shtick for social media because it gets clicks that, oh, I smoke 26 a day. Who the fuck knows? It might just be a occasional cigarette. Regardless, is it a good idea when you're fighting at the highest level? Probably not. But I thought it was going to play more of a factor with this being his first 5-round fight and him really getting deep into a fight for the first time. So he came out again in round five and was putting the pressure on Garry and tagged him a couple times, but this is where Garry's fight IQ really shined through. Anytime Prates started landing some shots, Garry was changing levels. And by this time, Garry was gassed himself. His level changes were sloppy. They were from far out. He wasn't setting them up. So there wasn't really any threat to Prates being taken down. But anytime that Prates started touching Garry, and that momentum started shifting, Garry read it really well and shot a takedown to try and kind of stifle the momentum of Prates. The end of the round is where shit got really, really crazy. Garry shot a shot and he was clinching on the fence. Prates ends up on top and lands heavy ground and pound. Heavy ground and pound. Stuns Ian Garry. Like you can tell Garry was very visibly rocked. Garry was running at this point once he had actually gotten up. And he fucked Ian Garry up with those ground and pounds. Um, but he couldn't finish it. He tagged him a couple more times once they got up, but by that point in the fight, there was maybe 15 seconds left, 20 seconds left. Prates had a split second there in that last round where he really could have finished the fight, in my opinion. He had Garry rocked with some of those shots that he threw, and it wasn't even a ground and pound. Honestly, I mean, it was because Garry was on his back, but it wasn't like a traditional ground and pound from a top half guard or a top mount. Prates was standing up and threw some juicers down and just landed heavy shots. So I think it kind of stunned Ian Machado. He recovered well. His fight IQ was through the roof. He made a lot of really good decisions that ended up winning this fight for him. All in all, UFC Kansas City was an absolute banger of a fight card. Thoroughly impressed with the amount of finishes that we had. A lot of fun matchups to make after this one. I'll put out a video in the next couple days on what fights I think make sense for some of the bigger performances after tonight. But overall, stellar card. But it's almost 2 a.m. here. I'm gonna wrap this up. Sorry for the camera issues again on this one. We'll get it fixed before the next couple videos. But appreciate you hanging out. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.